Hello and welcome to the 3Bs podcast, where we go beyond the numbers and get into what actually makes a business work. I'm your host, Stephanie Marshall, founder of ABCS UK, a multi-award-winning boutique finance and systems partner. I help business owners who've outgrown the basics bring clarity, structure and proper systems into their business so things finally feel in control. If you want more clarity, more confidence, and a business that doesn't feel like constant chaos, you're in the right place. Each week we tackle real problems, answer the questions you're probably already thinking, and give you practical steps you can actually use in around 15 minutes. So if you're ready to build a better business with confidence and clarity, then let's go. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to place for around 15 minutes of motivation, education, and inspiration to help you build a better business each week. If we haven't met before, hi, my name is Stephanie Marshall. I'm the founder of ABCS UK, which is a multi-award-winning boutique finance and systems partner, and I help growing businesses who have outgrown their bookkeeper move from messy, reactive finances to clear, structured numbers and systems they can actually use to run their business properly, because I care about the people behind the business and not just the numbers. Now, today's episode is about reports. Don't switch off. I know that sounds like the least exciting episode title in podcast history, but please bear with me, because one of the biggest myths in business is that you need to be good with numbers to understand your business finances. Newsflash, you don't. You just need to understand what you are looking at. I've worked with business owners who can tell you every detail about their service, their customers, and their industry, but couldn't tell you whether they were actually making any money. And that's not because they're bad business owners, because nobody ever showed them what to look at before they came to me. And that's what today's episode is about. The 3 reports I believe every business owner should understand. Not accountants, not bookkeepers, business owners. Because these 3 reports can completely change the quality of your decision making. And the good news? You don't need to understand every line of the reports. You just need to know what questions to ask. So let's get into it. Let's start with the one most people have heard of. The profit and loss report. Sometimes it's called a P&L. Now, this report answers a very simple question. Did the business make money in the specified time period? That's it. Revenue or sales in, costs out, what is left? That's your profit. Now, where business owners get caught out is they often look at the top line. Revenue, turnover, sales, whatever you want to call that. Revenue is great, but revenue alone doesn't tell you much. And if you've ever listened to an episode of the 3Bs podcast before, you will know what I'm talking about. Because I've had a business turning over £500,000 and I've had another business turning over £200,000. And the smaller business is actually making more money and they're actually more profitable. And why? Because profit and turnover are not the same thing. A business owner once said to me, we've had our best sales month ever. And I was like, fantastic. Then we looked at the profit and it definitely wasn't their best month at all, because costs have increased. Their margins had reduced because they hadn't reflected that increasing cost in their sales price. And they were working even harder for less return. Without that P&L report, that profit and loss, they would have never known that. So what questions should you ask? Instead of looking at the report and feeling overwhelmed, ask, am I making money? Are my costs increasing? Which expenses are getting bigger? Because again, if you break it down in your bookkeeping into nominals, into sections, you can see if your postage costs are the part that's increasing, or is it your salary that's really increasing? Are my sales increasing faster than my cost? That's a really good question to ask yourself and look at, because that's where all the value sits in these reports anyway. Not staring at every number. Okay, I spent 7,126 on fuel and I spent 4,200 on postage. Understanding the story behind those numbers, that's the part that's going to make the difference. Now, the next report I'm going to talk about is the one that most business owners avoid. And honestly, I think that's because nobody explains it properly to them and people make it sound complicated. It isn't. The balance sheet is simply a snapshot. It tells you what the business owns, what the business owes, and what's left at a given point in time. That's the really important thing with the balance sheet, is that's not an overall arching over the year. It's at that point in time, at that date. So right now, today, run a balance sheet. Right now, if your business closed, what would you still be owed and what would you owe out? That's the easiest way that I explain this to my clients. Think of the balance sheet as the health report of your business. If the profit and loss tells you how you've performed in that time period, the balance sheet tells you where you stand at that given point in time. So you're probably thinking, well, what does that actually mean? So let me try and explain this more practically. The balance sheet can show money in the bank, money customers owe you, also known as a debtor, loans that you've taken out that you need to pay back, VAT liabilities if you are holding VAT money on behalf of the HMRC and the VAT return hasn't gone in yet and the money hasn't gone across yet, but it is owed to HMRC. That's your liability. Same with corporation tax liabilities, corporation tax that will be due to be paid across to HMRC, but you haven't yet paid that money across. Directors' loan balances, that's where the director of a company or multiple directors of companies have either taken money from a business or have put money into a business. So if you've personally paid for a business transaction, that would then go in your director's loan account as money the business would owe you. If it closed right now, the money would be owed to you as a director. All the things that impact the financial position of the business. I've seen business owners look at a healthy bank balance and feel really confident. And then when we actually open the balance sheet, we discover that there's VAT due, corporation tax due, there's money owed elsewhere to suppliers. And suddenly that bank balance looks very different. And that's why I love a balance sheet. It provides context, and context creates better decisions. As with the profit and loss, the question to ask here with the balance sheet is, does this report show anything that could become a future problem? You don't want to be asking what does every line mean, because again, it's not every single line that's relevant, it's the context that that's providing. And finally, report number 3. Now this one is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated reports of all. Quite often when we put management reports together for clients, we build a bespoke management report pack to show them the information they want to see, the thing that's most important to them. And I will say to them, would you like the age data report? I think you should look at the age data report. And they're like, oh, no, we don't need that. We don't want that. This one can improve cash flow very quickly, which is why it's important to have it and understand what the age debtor report means. As with the balance sheet, the word debtor simply means somebody owes you money. So an age debtor report simply shows you who owes you money, how much they owe, and importantly, how long they've owed it for, how overdue is that money. And it sounds really simple, but it's so incredibly powerful. Because if we go back to previous episodes on the 3Bs podcast, I've spoken about this before. An unpaid invoice is not income. Even if you've done the work, you haven't been paid yet. So that doesn't help your cash flow. I've mentioned before a few times actually that we work with clients who have had thousands of pounds sitting in unpaid invoices. One client had £8,000 invoice outstanding. £8,000. Now imagine being worried about cash flow, worried about paying the wages, paying the VAT bill, paying your supplier to get more stock in, while £8,000 is sitting there waiting to be collected. And that's why the age debtor report really matters. They're often one of the quickest ways to improve cash flow without making a single sale, because it's understanding where to chase first. And I think business owners ignore this report quite often because chasing invoices feels uncomfortable. I know, I hate it. People don't want to appear pushy. They don't want to appear awkward. They don't want to upset the customer. They don't want awkward conversations. They assume that the customers will pay eventually. We all believe in good faith that we pay our bills, so customers are going to pay theirs. And sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. The businesses with the healthiest cash flow are usually the businesses with the healthiest credit control process. Now, a credit control process is simply how you get in that money that you are owed from invoices. That's not a coincidence. Now, here is what I see all the time when it comes to credit control or chasing unpaid invoices. Business owners check the bank balance, and then the bank balance again, as if the answer to every business question lives there, and it doesn't. The bank balance tells you only one thing: how much money is in the account right now. It definitely doesn't tell you whether you're profitable or not. That's why you need a profit and loss or a P&L. What tax is due, what customers owe you. That's where your balance sheet comes into play and your age debtors report for your customers, and what future costs are coming. It also doesn't tell you whether you're making any good decisions or not. And that's why these reports matter. They fill in the gaps in your business. And I think having these reports and understanding these reports make a huge difference to helping you build a better business, which I presume you want to by watching or listening to this podcast. What happens when you understand these reports is really interesting, because you don't suddenly become an accountant or a bookkeeper, but you do become more confident, because confidence comes from that visibility. You stop guessing when you're making decisions. You stop making assumptions because the data is there for you to rely on. And you also stop relying on hope. You start making decisions based on real information, and that's a completely different way of running a business. If you've winged it this far, amazing. Most of us are winging it most of the time. If you've never looked at profit and loss, if you've never looked at a balance sheet, if you've never pulled through your age data report, how do you know where your business actually is, where it's actually going, and how much you're actually owed? I guess, in all honesty, this episode isn't really about reports. It's about visibility, because business owners don't struggle because they lack intelligence, regardless of what they tell me time and time again with our clients. They struggle because they lack information, and they struggle with interpreting that information correctly. Because when you have information, you have options. And when you have options, you can make better business decisions. And better decisions build better businesses. As with every episode of the 3Bs podcast, I want to give you something simple to do this week. Your one move that if you do this and take action on this one thing, you will see a positive change in your business by next week. This week, I want you to open your accounting software. If you don't yet use it, you've got a spreadsheet, open your spreadsheet, wherever you track your sales and your expenses. Ideally, accounting software. Or ask your bookkeeper or ask your accountant if they do your annual accounts for you, because you might not use the software, but they probably do have the software available. Request these 3 reports: your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your aged debtors. Then spend 15 minutes reviewing them. I'm asking you to spend 15 minutes. Not analysing every line, reviewing them. Go back to this episode, replay this episode while you're looking at them if you need to, looking through the report and the lines that matter. Ask yourself, what is this report trying to tell me? Because you might be really surprised about what you discover. If you are not understanding what these reports are telling you, once maybe you've got the reports or you don't currently have a bookkeeper or an accountant, there is a link in the show notes to my diary. Book 15 minutes in. We do close in August, so it'll probably be September. But book that 15 minutes in September. We will get on a call. We'll have a look at those reports. If you pull them off now, when you're watching this episode, and pull them off again before you do the call with me in the diary, I'll be able to help you understand not only what both those reports are trying to tell you, and actually the change between the 2 reports, which is also really useful. In closing, the most successful business owners aren't always the ones who know the most. They may act like it, but it's not. They're usually the ones who have the clearest picture of what's actually happening in the business. And I believe these 3 reports really help create that picture for you and your business. If this episode helped you think differently about your business, then thank you. Please do leave a review. It takes a couple of seconds for you to press those 5 stars. Don't even need to leave no words if you don't want to, but it really helps push this podcast out to more business owners so we can all start running our businesses properly. If you have a fellow business owner, maybe you talk to a few, we all know a few entrepreneurs who's also winging it alongside you, maybe your business buddy, send them this episode so that they can start building their businesses properly. Make sure you're following if you're on any podcast platform or YouTube or Spotify. If you are on YouTube, hit that notification bell because it will tell you when the next episode goes live. And if you'd like help understanding your numbers, building better reporting, or creating more visibility in your business long term, that's exactly what we do at ABCS UK, because your business deserves better. So please book 15 minutes in my diary. I'm really looking forward to speaking to as many of you as possible in September. And I will see you next week for the next episode. Bye. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. If this has helped you think differently about your business, then it's done its job. Make sure you're following or subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you found it useful, please do leave a review. It helps more business owners find this and start running their businesses properly. If you want more insights behind the scenes and the reality of what it actually takes to build a better business, come and connect with me on social media. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start running your business with clarity, structure, and confidence, your next step is just a click away, because your business deserves better. I'll see you in the next episode.